After studying this module, you shall be able to know about the features of forgery, learn about the examination of forged document, and you will identify the characteristics of genuine or forged documents. Introduction to forgery. Forgery may be defined as the creation of any false written document or alteration of genuine one with intent to defraud. Forgery may consist of filling up the blank on a document containing a genuine signature or materially altering or erasing instrument. An underlying intent to defraud based on the knowledge of the false nature of the instrument must accompany the act. Modes of forgery may include bills of exchange, bills of lending, promissory bonds, notes, receipts, money of goods, mortgages, discharge of mortgages, deeds, bonds, records, account books, and certain kinds of tickets or passes for transportation or events, etc. Let us learn about the characteristics of forged document. Perfect simulation is not possible while imitating a genuine signature. The forger endeavors to copy the shape, size, style, slant, and other broad features of genuine signatures. To accomplish this task, he must have memory of the visual characteristics feature of the genuine signature, and then he must be able to put them in similar manner on the paper. All imitations require careful attention to reproduce the exact sameness of the general appearance of letters, and while performing the act, the speed slows and it takes longer time to imitate the original writings. The attention of the forger remains divided in copying the outline of the letters of model signature and other features, and in suppressing his style of writing due to increase and decrease in concentration in the act of copying. The sign of drawn and or hesitating writing grip in his work, which becomes evidence of fraud. The fear of punishment in doing such an illegal act also disturbs the forger. This reflexes to his mental tension also makes the imitation difficult, and thus he does not achieve perfection. Now we will learn about the evidence of fraud, that is disputed signature showing superior skill. To a great or lesser extent, almost all individuals have the ability to distort their handwriting or signature. How successful one is depends on his or her awareness of his or her own writing or signature. The amount of writing or the number of signature that need to be disguised or distorted, and his or her creativity. Individuals may motivated to produce a signature that they will deny at a later time. This has been encountered involving government checks, acknowledgement of receipt of property, leases, business contracts, etc. Disguise can be accomplished by changing the slant, increasing or reducing the size of the signature, distorting letter designs, reducing or increasing speed, or any combination of these processes. Distinguish signatures that are produced at leisure and with practice, usually will be more successful than those that must be produced in the presence of the tailor or delivery person. The success of attempt to disguise is also increased if the true individual is the sole source of standards used for comparison. If the individual has the opportunity to call or carefully select the exemplars submitted to the forensic document examiner, one can assume that only those that appear different will be produced. It is proved that a writer with a lower writing movement cannot ascend to higher writing movement. That is, writer who is able to write with finger movement cannot write with hand or forearm movement unless he improves his writing skill with passage of time. In copied forgeries, it sometimes happens that the forged signatures or writing shows better writing skills and penmanship than the genuine signature or writing. The reason being that when the forger has better writing skill than that of the person whose signature is to be forged, he may write letters in a skilled manner without thinking that such a skill is beyond the capability of the author of genuine signature. If the disputed signature displays better penmanship than the genuine normal signature, it conclusively establishes that the disputed signature is a downright forgery. The skill and ability of imitating another person's signature by freehand process greatly differs from person to person. The forger cannot possess the dent of mind and muscles to make a good imitating equivalent to that of the person whose writing is to be imitated. He may possess the technical skills of copying the general outline of the forms of letters, but he will fail in reproducing the exact qualities of writing he intends to imitate. In the signature, the disputed is written with greater speed, and the writer of the genuine signature is not capable of writing with such a speed. It is a stronger corroborative factor to conclude that the disputed signature is a forged signature. One who has lower order of writing skills and writes poorly cannot write skillfully. The questioned signature or writing contains positive evidence of fraud. Now let us learn about evidence of fraud, that is the difference in speed of writing. Speed in writing is the rapidity in movement of pen and pencil in the formation of letters comprising words and sentences. The degree of speed varies in handwriting, which make it important factor in the examination of question document. The speed in which individual writes is dependent upon his mental attitude, physical conditions or impulse. Therefore, the degree of speed used to peculiar to each person. The indication of the degree of speed used in writing is always found in the line qualities of the writing. Uniform speed produces good line quality, but excessive speed reduces the legibility of the writing and prevents the formation of carious letters especially towards the end of the word. Legibility is the primary purpose of the signature, and when it is written with great speed, it is often illegible and sometimes nothing more than a marked signature. A writing written with a peculiar speed by an individual cannot be imitated by the larger with the same degree, and thus the execution of the forger is liable to detect. Now let us learn about the difficulty in copying the signature of skilled writer than an unskilled writer. It is exceedingly difficult to copy the smooth, forceful and rhythmic writing of a skilled writer. Such writing portrays faster writing speed and skillful formation of letters, and copying of such rhythmic strokes of letters is bound to result in a defective line quality and other conspicuous and inconspicuous dissimilarities. The writings of unskilled writer showing slow speed, ill defined formation of letters and curves and changing movement impulses in the strokes and simulated comparatively more easily because their manner of production is similar to the process of copying. Now next is line quality of the simulated forgery. The principal error in the identification of signature is due to the assumption that the resemblance in the design of letter or other general feature is a proof of genuineness, which is obviously not correct. While simulating a signature, the main aim of the forger is to make simulated signature similar to that of the model signature selected by him. Thus, a simulated signature will naturally show some resemblance with the signature imitated. The line quality of simulated forgery is bound to be defective because it is not possible to follow the outline of letters of a signature of another individual with free movement and at same speed. While examining the line quality, the examiner should be competent enough to properly determine and interpret the causes of the line quality defects. Sometimes the genuine writing may also show some line quality defects, but those defects can be easily differentiated from the line quality defects of forgery made to hide them. Whereas in case of forgeries, the forger always tries to conceal those defects, though he may or may not be able to do so. Sometimes the ballpoint pen writing show excess of inking or bulbs of ink at the start or turning points of the stroke, or sometimes hiatus or breaks may appear due to improper functioning of the ball pen. Such defects are sometimes referred to as retouching and suspicious pen lifts, and it is claimed that these defects are line quality defects of forgery. The examiner should be able to differentiate such defects from the actual line quality defects of forged writing or signatures. Now let us learn about the tremors in simulated forgery. When an attempt is made to simulate the signature or writing showing tremors of old age, illness or illiteracy, generally the forger is not able to reproduce such tremors in the forgery. To copy or imitate natural tremor is not an easy task because a forger cannot acquire and match muscular weakness resulting from causes in an artificial manner. Tremors in forgery, being unnatural, does not show uniformity, that some of the strokes are too strong and fluent, whereas some other shows hesitation and wrongly placed tremors. Sometimes the forged signature perpetrating to be returned by an old person show even minute retouching or overwriting. Now let us learn about the examination of traced forgery. The science of handwriting comparison is a demonstrative science. If traced forgery is demonstrated in a proper manner, then there may not be any need to corroborate the finding and explain the facts, and if the examiner is unable to demonstrate the observation in a convincing manner, then the same may not be proved even with the help of other corroborative evidences. There are several methods of demonstrating traced forgery. First is direct superimposition of forged signature and the model signature by transmitted light, making photographic dispositive of forged signatures, that is transparencies, and model signature on a film on the same scale. Third, placing signature under glass or celluloid sheet bearing ruled square and then photograph them on the same scale. Fourth, superimposing negative of traced and model signature in the enlarger and making an enlargement. Fifth, actual measurement of different strokes of original signature and illustrating their identity in measurements. Now let us learn these in detail. First is direct superimposition of original signature. The superimposition of traced and model signature by transmitted light is an easy and useful method for demonstrating overlapping strokes, and even a layman can easily understand and can make observations on this point. This method is the first step examination for detection of traced forgery. Second is making transparencies. This is another simple method of demonstrating the coinciding strokes in forged and model signature. The transparencies of the traced signature and the model signature are prepared by photographing them with dispositive film on the same scale, and the dispositives so formed are superimposed to show coinciding strokes. Next is placing signature under ruled square. This method of demonstrating suspicious similarities in the traced and model signature is considered to be most effective method. The signature are placed under a glass, celluloid or maybe under transparent sheet. bearing ruled square and they are photographed on the same scale. This method has basic advantage over the other methods, that the suspicious line quality defect such as pen lifts, suspicious hesitations, retouching, etc. can be observed and illustrated on enlarged photographs, and the identity in size and proportions of the corresponding strokes and divergence can be seen clearly. Next is making composite photographs by superimposing negatives in the enlarger. In this method, the traced and model signature is photographed on the same scale and the negatives are superimposed in the enlarger to make composite prints. This type of demonstrating traced forgery has not gained much popularity because in the composite photograph the divergence in the strokes tend to be more prominent, whereas the superimposing strokes appear as single stroke. Now next is measurements of different parts, strokes of signatures. Traced forgeries can also be demonstrated by taking measurements of different strokes of signature and showing the identity in measurements. This method may prove useful along with other demonstrative methods. However, taking measurements of different strokes of signature in the court is a difficult task and the court may not be convinced by such measurements. Now let us learn about the line quality of traced forgery. Traced forgeries are frequently passed as genuine by those who compare only the design and outer appearance of letters and give little attention on the line quality. The most important and common symptom of traced forgery is defective line quality, that is, indicating the manner in which the pen was moved, stopped, lifted and writing retraced and retouched, etc. During the process of tracing, while tracing, the forger may be able to make the design of outline of the forged signature similar to the model of signature, but the more resemblance in the general design of the letter is not the sole criteria for the comparison of such resemblance is given to them least important, the writing habits and individual characteristics. The traced forgery may show normally signs like hesitation, pen lifts, defective shading, minute retouching. The signature and writing, which are written in faster speed with rhythm and fluency in strokes, are most difficult to forge by the process of tracing. The forger never wants to deviate from the model signature, which results in the marked decline in the rhythm and speed, making detection easy. Next is examination of forgery by memory. Such forgery is usually the combination of the normal handwriting of the forger and letters bearing some resemblance with the signature or writing of the actual writer. The degree of resemblance, of course, depends upon the ability of the forger to memorize and reproduce the letter forms. Such type of forgeries can be easily detected and proved because forgery by memory is primitive type of forgery and no forger can memorize or reproduce all the features of the signature or writing to be forged. Let us summarize what we have learned in this module. Forgery may be defined as the creation of any false return document or alteration of genuine one with the intent to defraud. Perfect simulation is not possible. The skill and ability of imitating another person's signature by freehand process greatly differs from person to person. The skill and the ability of imitating another person's signature by freehand process greatly differs from person to person. The line quality of simulated forger is bound to be defective because it is not possible to follow the outline of a letter of a signature of another individual with free movement and at the same speed. Tremor in a forgery being unnatural do not show uniformity, that some of the strokes are too strong whereas some others show hesitations and wrongly placed tremors. The science of handwriting comparison is a demonstrative science. Straight forgery normally shows hesitation, pen lips, defective shading and minute retouching.